Hello, welcome to Being Reintegrated. My name is Tim Wright, and we're looking over some of the Divonne the Divine material. I was wondering if I should talk about this because I did talk about it in one of the last episodes, I believe, Reflections on Divonne, and I found something very interesting that he's talking about. What he talks about is the golden rule. And so I was looking in the book. Essentially, on page, I believe it's 28, where he talks about the center of unity and a law. He says, let's see. Well, there's the eternal justice promulgates this law. Which is the very foundation of the divine social contract and which is sanctioned in all hearts. Do not do to others what you would not want done to yourself. So that right there is first century Palestinian Hillel. And then there it says again, do to others all that you would want them to do to you. And from then on, morality established on this foundation, he opposes barriers to the torrent passions. The love of one's fellows counterbalances the love of oneself, and the general interest rectifies and ensures the particular interest. Wow. So, I have come to the belief that Divonne was really who they say he was. And this was one of his last treatises that was saved, basically, and that we've translated at Kim Publishing. Divonne the Divine and the Spirit of Prayer. Really good stuff. But I wanted to talk about it because what we're seeing here is actually the full revelation of what Fournier calls Christian morality, which he talks about really ad nauseum in his book. And I always mess the name up because it's pretty long. The what we have been, what we are, and what we will become. Now, I did an AI analysis of every page in the Simple Initiate. And what you'll find is there's so much about Christian morality. Even, just a random flip here to page 40, union with God through Christian morality and the Holy Trinity, which is on page 40. So the point is like little bitty clarifications like that help us see the other book of Fournier in a new light. Now, here's some controversy. I've been told that Fournier was probably not Martinez's intended successor, and on and on and on. And I mean, I know what I'm saying when I make these assertions. They're not random statements that I can't back up. However, what I am saying is I read in I believe it was, I'm getting to it, it was Vouliard. I don't know how to say that last name. Paul Vouliard. And he did a study of the Lions Rocroi. And so what he found was that, the Lions Rocroi was actually a lot about the Society of Initiates and the whole unknown agent mesmerism stuff. We're currently at Kim Publishing translating the lessons, or not lessons, but the lectures by Alice Jolie to basically get the trinity of scholarship in there, which is Jolie, Ridgenberg, and LaForester. And I use a contemporary, Antoine Feva. And anyway, in all of this reading, what I found in Vouliard was that Fournier, we often refer to Fournier, and even Feva referred to him in his essay on Fournier's book as, really illiterate. And Saint-Martin calls them illiterate. But in Vuillard, he basically calls himself illiterate. His commentary is that if you wanted to know what I wrote, you'd have to talk with me about it. You're not going to understand what it is just by reading my book. So I love that he had that centeredness of perception to be able to tell people, like, look, there's more to this tradition than just reading our writings. You have to be explained what all this means. So what I'm finding in this is a lot of overlap with Fournier. Divonne, I love Divonne. I don't know why this hasn't been found by the head people. Trying to be nice about it. The head people in the orders, but I love Divonne. So I've been reading Divonne pretty, not proficiently, but pretty predominantly for the last couple of weeks. And, I've read, 30, 40 pages so far, or 30 pages of the actual book, and 25 pages of his actual pagination, which I've concluded. Anyway, so Divonne is mentioned in a new book that I'm working on, which is a Favre book that people will be able to have access to through being reintegrated. Since it's still in copyright, I can't make it for sale. So what we'll do is we'll make it available to those who are subscribers to Being Reintegrated Patreon, and you'll get PDFs of that book, which is a cornerstone for the German Martinism that Kim Publishing is working on. Now, I won't mention names yet because we're not there, but in the future, Martinism was not just the French Martinists that we are have known about. It was also German Martinism. And I know that sounds a little weird, so bear with me. I know there's critical people out there, and thank God you're thinking about this material. We have Franz von Baader, and he is pretty much a Martinist. He read Klucker's Magicon, which also Favre, I believe it was Favre, said that Martinus de Pasquale was familiar with. Now, I don't know if Martinus was a contemporary with Saint-Martin, and that really we should have a little bit more of a viewpoint of this stuff. I know Saint-Martin says that Martinus was his master, but I'm wondering if it was more like he was a colleague, because Baader definitely was reading Klucker's Magicon. I think that's how you say it in German. I don't know. But there's a book called The Magicon, which Favre did a commentary on the study of. So all of these pieces come together, and not only is Kim Publishing working on the primary texts and even secondary and scholastic materials of French scholarship, but we're now moving into German Illuminism as well. So the work on Eckhart Schauschen is being produced right now. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. So, I mean, there's definitely stuff in the works. Thanks for your patronage. But back over to the French. We got, and Divonne was in correspondence with Eckhart Schauschen too. So there's letters between Divonne and Kirchberger and Eckhart Schauschen and Saint-Martin, and Divonne was one of the free birds. He just kind of traveled everywhere and had these mystical experiences and understandings. So the fact that we have one of his books is just mind-blowing. And I'm reading it, and there's a lot in his treatise. On page, I think it's 17 or 18. On 18, I talked about that in the Reflections of Divonne, but he's basically talking about Hekalot, mysticism, and then, like I said, on page 23, he's talking about this law of Hillel being the Christian morality of Fournier. So we read a paginated version of Fournier. You can go look at that at the Codex, or if you're just looking at the summaries in the book The Simple Initiate, you can see that Christian morality is talked about a lot. I mean, I just opened up the book again, and on page 169, there's a call to embrace Christian morality for rebirth and salvation. There's another one on page 170, the final salvation through Christian morality. Page 171, those within Christian morality and those outside of it. So there's so much going on here. I believe that's still part of Fournier's book. You know, this book also contains a translation of 4127, which we believe is Fournier's second part. But I just love the fact that we're getting such depth of material. It's obvious to me now that Divonne was a disciple of Fournier. He talks about that Christian morality on that page that I just read to you. And then you're able to better understand Fournier. Because what happens is when you're reading Ba'ader, you're seeing his criticism on Immanuel Kant and the reason-based philosophy of Kant. Now, I don't know all this stuff. I'm not, like, I didn't just read it and like, oh yeah, now I know everything. It's just like the scholars are there to teach us all this stuff. So before, you know, there is a presentation of a ritualization of the theosophy of these teachings, I mean, you got to know what the teachings are. So I love the fact that Divonne is going and doing such a deep dive, which seems very Buddhist to me. You know, I'm reading a lot of what he says, and basically he's saying reason is a sensory-based thought process. He's talking about the ears and the eyes, and he's talking about all these consciousnesses of what in Buddhism are called the aggregates. So it's very grounded stuff. I really, really like Divonne. Now, is there a chance that it could be einsegesis and that I'm thinking too much into it, and that this wasn't part of Divonne's travels and he didn't learn of Buddhism and Hinduism and Raja Yoga and Kundalini? It's possible, yeah. But what I also think happens, and what Carl Jung showed us, is that the individual channel, not channeling like psychism, but the individual channel of information doesn't necessarily need to have comprehension of what it's doing. This is what Jung showed us in Alchemy and its Symbols, I believe it's called. Basically, the alchemists were having revelations from the unconscious, which were going into their art, which they had no clue why they were doing what they were doing. They were tapping into a what Soni Samdasani calls the phylogenetic layers of the unconscious. And as this happened, you know, different content came out where the individual was expressing archetypal images and you know, things that were grounded in iconography in a very symbolic way. They were teaching their theosophy through these symbols. So we have a lot of that going on with Divonne. He's using words, but he's not ignorant at all. Either, you know, we're being messed with by AI translation, which could be true, but why would it mess with us in such a way that it understands all syncretistic religion and philosophy and is presenting it to us, you know, in all this term? Maybe it wants to keep us bound, like Nietzsche said. Part of the power mongering is to keep us bound in Christianity and laws and virtues, and, you know, keep us as slaves. That could be true. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that if it is, it has such a large understanding of the symbolic language of French and the core phenomenological components of these religions that it's tricking us. Now, that's True, it could be doing that, but what's more likely is that Divonne is encountering through his travels. I mean, because he was a count, he's traveling and he has a lot of desire to do this. He's traveling through these mystical circles and he's learning of these components that are probably introduced to the first time to France and to Germany. These Buddhist and Eastern philosophy kind of mentalities. The Eckhart, Meister Eckhart, apophatic theology is kind of seeping through. You can see where there's a little bit of overlap with some of the mystical saint stuff going on. So you can see a little bit of the making of the soup broth of ideology and ideas of the illuminist mindset, and how they're sharing with each other little bitty pieces and ingredients that each person gets. And that being said, Fournier has been seen as a dependent on Willermo's. I don't know. I didn't like that view of it, but really, Willermo's was not so beneficent in his capitalistic doling to people of all of their security needs. Because I read, it was one of these scholars. I don't remember which one it was, because it's like I'm reading a lot of stuff and I'm trying to get you the best things on being reintegrated. But I read that Saint Martin wrote of Errors in Truth while he was sitting in the kitchen because he did not have a warm place to be. So he was in the kitchen writing his book, which went to Beader. Beader writes about Saint Martin extensively, and so the point is like, in spite of Willermo's selfishness and capitalistic positioning as a bourgeoisie, he still was beneficial to the order and its purposes. Now, there's a lot going on, so I mean, I can't possibly cover everything of all this scholarship in a couple of minutes. It's a lot of material. So, thanks for patronizing Kim Publishing. While we do these efforts, we're able to get more and more materials out there. If you wouldn't have bought Abbe Fournier's Simple Initiate, I wouldn't have had the ability to go and make Divonne the Divine. And if I didn't make both of these books, we wouldn't see where something as little as chapter 3 in Paul Violade overlaps and gives a good view of what's happening here. And so Fournier was absolutely an initiator. He was a Rocroi. And, there's more and more. I mean, I could go on a slur campaign for some of these personalities, but I won't. You'll be able to do that yourself by just reading the materials. My job is to try to stay as unbiased as possible. So, reading Ba'ader and its corrected critical edition of German, we're getting a good view of what the German Martinist vibe was. Illuminism in Germany is pretty much what we're seeing. And so, the theosophy of Eckhart Schauschen is there. Eckhart Schauschen and Kirchberger were talking. I mean, we're seeing a definite German illuminist vibe going on. So I'm really excited to be able to probably produce Klucher's translation and some more Ba'ader and more Eckhart Schauschen. And so there is a German element that's happening, but it's slow. I don't have a team of people, and we need more funding to be able to make more books. I mean, we're on our 8th or 9th book right now, going through The Unknown Agent. The Unknown Agent was just released, which is the writings of Monsby through the Society of Initiates, and a Paul Violade overview of one of the Lyon's manuscripts. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, for God's sake. But let's go here. I'll go real quick to the document. It's 47. And I don't remember it. So let me just go to it real quick. In Lyons, Willermoes wrote down a copy of all the Monspe material and indexed it. So there's multiple indexes, but it's really hard to find continuity within all of this indexing, because Monspe indexed it, Willermoes indexed it, someone else came in and indexed it. 4127 was indexed by, or not 4127, but the manuscript I'm getting to, which is 5477. There we go. Correction, 5477. Is the manuscript in part 2 of the Unknown Agent book that was just released. Now, someone bought it. I don't know how they were able to find it. Maybe my name pops it up on Amazon. Who knows how you got it? But if you got it, you should know that this is the first English translation, and it's very rough. So I did this to get them in book format. They're definitely a work in progress. These are not perfect books at all, but they are way better than having a French PDF, which is not in English at all. I mean, these are in book format. They do need some corrections. There are some errata, which is all my fault. But we're just trying to get the material out there. So, I mean, if you have the compassion to overlook a word, you'll be able to get the context of what's being said for sure, which I've had to do in Divonne. So I apologize if there's errors. There's going to be errors in any book, unless y'all produce such a effort that we can get high grade publication efforts going on where we can get an actual team of people. I mean, that's just out of this world. But if you buy more books and you subscribe to the Patreon, we can get the funding to be able to keep making this material. So as we diverge over into German Illuminism, you'll start seeing more of that coming out of Kim Publishing. For right now, the French material is on hold because we're kind of pivoting over to German. But the great thing about it is that we are still working on the pillars of the scholastic views, the academic views of this material. So you'll be able to see Joly, you'll be able to see Ridgenberg, you'll be able to see LaForester, and a little bit of Favor. I'm not really allowed to do that, but you may see a little bit of Favor if you're hanging around the right circles. No pun intended. And then you'll get a view of not only French but German Illuminism as they move in with each other, and we'll see Illuminism as a whole as it was going through France and Germany at around the same time. So it's very exciting to me to be able to bring in the German Illuminists. And that's on the back of an academic. So, multiple academics, actually. So, yeah, thanks for coming and checking out the new episode of Divonne, the Divine Conversation. And I hope that these efforts are valuable to you all. Bye.